The blinding white beam lanced from the Omega device, burning through Ladosian ships like a blowtorch through tissue paper, vaporizing dozens in an instant. But would it be enough to stop an entire alien armada bent on humanity's annihilation? Captain Samuel Young gripped the armrests of his command chair, knuckles white as the enemy fleet reformed on the view screen. Just minutes ago, the Ladosians had seemed unstoppable, their sleek warships effortlessly smashing through Earth's defenses with advanced weaponry never before seen by humanity. Outclassed, outgunned, and caught completely off guard, the nations of Earth had fallen one by one until only a handful of battered ships remained. The situation looked hopeless. But Samuel had one last card to play: the Omega device. Developed in secret by Earth's top scientists, the device was a technological marvel, a weapon of immense power. But it was also completely untested. No one knew if it would work as intended or tear itself apart in a catastrophic malfunction. There was no choice, though. With the Ladosian fleet approaching Earth, Samuel gave the order. It was time to take the gamble, initiate the Omega device, and pray it was enough to save humanity from enslavement or extinction at the hands of the merciless alien invaders. As power surged into the Omega device, a piercing whine filled the ship. Warning alarms blared as the reactors redlined, emergency lights bathing the bridge in pulsing red. Samuel's crew frantically worked to keep the device stable as the ship itself shook, bulkheads groaning under the strain of the immense energy buildup. Then, the device unleashed its fury on the Ladosian fleet. That first devastating salvo had blown away a third of the alien ships in a heartbeat. The Ladosians were thrown into chaos, stunned by the sheer power of the human weapon. But the element of surprise wouldn't last for long. Already, the remaining Ladosian warships were regrouping, recovering. On the bridge of their flagship, the ruthless alien commander Umbra snarled in rage, his eyes blazing with murderous intent. He would make the humans pay dearly for this insult. Samuel knew they likely had only one more shot before the Ladosians adapted and struck back with overwhelming force. The fate of Earth hung on his next decision. The lives of billions rested in his hands. He had to make this one count. The Omega device hummed as it prepared to fire again, the air practically crackling with barely restrained energy. Samuel's gaze fixed on the view screen, at the looming Ladosian fleet. This was it, humanity's last stand. Time seemed to slow as his finger hovered over the firing key. Would this be remembered as the day the human race triumphed against impossible odds and turned back an alien invasion? Or the day they gambled everything on an unproven weapon and lost? Samuel gritted his teeth and stabbed down on the button. The Omega device roared as it unleashed hell once again. The bridge of Samuel's ship erupts in cheers as the second devastating blast from the Omega device rips through the Ladosian fleet. Alien ships crumple and explode under the onslaught, scattering debris across the void of space. On the interface, Samuel catches a glimpse of a lone Ladosian fighter speeding away from the destruction, Umbra making his escape. But there's no time to celebrate or give chase. Alarms blare as long-range sensors pick up a massive energy surge. "Captain," shouts the sensor officer, "wormhole formation detected near Ladosian space." The view screen zooms out, revealing a swirling vortex of energy. From its depths emerges a colossal armada, easily dwarfing the fleet they just defeated. At its heart looms a gargantuan warship, dripping with weapons. "It's the Apex Dominator," whispers the tactical officer, face pale. "Flagship of Emperor Zarax himself." Samuel feels a chill run down his spine. Zarax, the ruthless conqueror of 1,000 worlds, and he's come to personally oversee Earth's destruction. A hollow transmission crackles to life, the bridge suddenly face to face with the snarling visage of the Ladosian Emperor. "Humans!" Zarax roars, eyes blazing with fury. "You dare defy the might of the Ladosian Empire? Your pathetic resistance ends now. I will burn your cities, enslave your people, and grind your civilization to dust beneath my heel." Samuel cuts the transmission, mind racing. The Omega device hums behind him, still recharging from its last blast. They need time. Launch the fusion drones, he orders. Buy us as many minutes as you can. Hatches along the human ships open, disgorging thousands of small, nimble drones. Each one armed with a miniaturized fusion warhead. They streak toward the Ladosian fleet, moving erratically, hard to target. The aliens open fire, energy beams stitching the void. Drones wink out of existence by the dozen, but more keep coming, an unending swarm. The first ones reach the Ladosian ships. Warheads detonate, blinding white flashes against the darkness of space. Ladosian hulls buckle and rupture under the onslaught, even their advanced shields unable to withstand the kamikaze attacks. The Apex Dominator is rocked by nearby blasts, its shields shimmering but holding under the strain. On his throne, Zarax clenches his fists until his claws draw blood, shaken by the ferociousness of the assault. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship, Samuel commands, seizing the moment. The human fleet opens up, pouring shot after shot into the damaged Ladosian warships. Several crumple and explode under the barrage, but the Apex Dominator remains a bastion amidst the chaos. Zarax roars commands, the Ladosian fleet moving to shield their flagship. Wings of nimble alien fighters dart out, hunting the fusion drones with ruthless efficiency. On Samuel's bridge, the weapon officer calls out, Omega device at 60% charge and climbing. Samuel grits his teeth watching the battle unfold. The Ladosians regroup, fighting back with renewed ferocity. The hull shudders as enemy fire slams into weakening shields. It all hinges on this next shot. The drones have the Ladosians distracted. The fleet is buying time, but it won't last. Everything depends on the Omega device being ready before the enemy can bring their full might to bear. 70%, calls out the weapon officer, sweat dripping down his face as he coaxes more power into the overtaxed systems. Samuel's eyes lock on the pulsing red dot that represents the Apex Dominator. If they can take out Zarax's flagship, the Ladosians will be thrown into disarray. But if they fail, if the Omega device isn't ready in time, he shakes off the thought, nails digging into his palms. Not an option for Earth, for humanity. They have to win. 80%. The ship rocks again, sparks flying from overloaded consoles. On the console, human ships are burning, the Ladosian noose tightening. Almost there. The Omega device pulses, a star being born in the heart of the ship. Samuel can feel it straining, ready to unleash annihilation. Consoles flash red, damage reports flooding in as the Ladosians press the attack. The fleet is crumbling, the drones thinning out. 90%. Firing controls to you, Captain. This is it, no second chances. Samuel's hand wraps around the control column, the trigger heavy under his finger. Full power to forward shields and engines, he barks. Helm, set course for the heart of their fleet. We're going to fire this thing point blank right down the Apex Dominator's throat. Affirmations ring out as the crew scrambles to obey. The ship lurches forward, Ladosian weapons hammering its battered frame. Samuel's gaze bores into the looming visage of Zarax's flagship. Around him, the bridge crew shouts out shield strength and range. Consoles explode in showers of sparks, bulkheads groan. Almost. He feels the trigger click under his finger. Samuel's finger hovered over the trigger, but he hesitated. A new plan formed in his mind, bold and desperate. Hold fire, he barked. New orders, prep the stealth shuttle. We're sending in a strike team. His crew stared at him in disbelief. Sir? Questioned his XO. We need to cripple that monster from the inside, Samuel explained, punching commands into his console. Lieutenant Harris, report to the hangar bay immediately. Minutes later, Kim Harris stood before a hand-picked squad of Earth's finest soldiers. Each face was grim, understanding the stakes. Listen up, Harris shouted over the din of preparations. Our mission is simple. We blow that reactor to hell and give Earth a fighting chance. The team loaded up, packing every weapon they could carry, Plasma rifles, breaching charges, enough explosives to level a city block. As the shuttle's engines whined to life, Harris addressed her squad one last time. I won't lie, we probably aren't coming back from this, but neither are those alien bastards if we do our job right. They launched into chaos. Energy beams crisscrossed space, seeking targets. The shuttle's stealth systems strained against detection as Harris skillfully wove through the debris field. A Ladosian fighter passed within meters, searching for drones. Harris held her breath, squeezing hard on the controls. It banked away, oblivious. There, muttered Harris, eyeing the colossal Apex Dominator. Prepping for breach. Marks, arm the charges. The shuttle matched velocity perfectly with the alien flagship. A muffled thump, a hiss of escaping air, and they were in. Ladosian soldiers wheeled in surprise as the humans poured through the breach. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Harris dropped 2 aliens before they could raise their weapons. Move, she shouted. Beta team, clear R6. They fought their way deeper into the ship's guts. Alarms blared. Bulkheads slammed shut behind them. We're locked in, reported Corporal Chen. No way back. Then we go forward, growled Harris. They reached a junction. Harris split her forces, half providing cover while the rest pushed toward engineering. Suddenly, a familiar face appeared on every screen and holographic display. Umbra, his eyes burning with rage. Hunt them down, the alien commander snarled. Slaughter these human vermin. Security forces converged from all directions. Harris and her team were caught in a crossfire, taking cover behind alien machinery. Reynolds, Harris shouted over the din. Those codes better work. The hacker's fingers flew across his datapad. Almost got it. A massive door slid open, revealing the throbbing heart of the Apex Dominator. The reactor core pulsed with otherworldly energy. Plant those charges, ordered Harris. You've got 2 minutes. Her remaining soldiers formed a protective ring as the demolitions experts worked. Ladosian troops pressed closer, their weapons chewing through the humans' cover. Charges set, called out Private Wu. Harris nodded grimly. Fall back to the extraction point. I'll hold them here. But Lieutenant... That's an order, soldier. Earth is counting on you. Now move. As her last operative sprinted away, Harris turned to face the oncoming horde. She smiled, thinking of home, and opened fire. The shuttle disengaged just as Harris hit the detonator. The Apex Dominator shuddered as its very core was torn apart. On the bridge of his dying flagship, Xerax watched in mute horror as systems failed all around him. Umbra's voice crackled over the comms, desperately calling for evasive action. Back on the human flagship, Samuel allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction before barking new orders. All ships converge on the Dominator. Tactical status on the Omega device. 95% in climbing, sir. Samuel nodded. Prepare to fire on my mark. We end this now. Samuel's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the battlefield. The crippled Apex Dominator hung in space, a wounded behemoth ripe for the taking. He leaned forward, fingers tightening on the armrests of his command chair. All ships, this is your captain. Concentrate fire on the Apex Dominator. I want every missile, every energy beam targeted on that monstrosity. Today, we show these alien bastards what humanity is made of. A chorus of affirmatives rang out across the comms. In an instant, the void of space lit up as human warships unleashed hell. Streaks of light crisscrossed the darkness, a lethal web of destruction racing towards the Ladosian flagship. Missiles slammed into weakened shields, detonating in brilliant flashes. Energy beams lanced through the Dominator's hull, carving glowing furrows across its surface. Samuel watched with grim satisfaction as chunks of alien metal spun off into the void. On the enemy side, Umbra snarled orders to his remaining fighters. But the Ladosian formations were in chaos, their carefully planned attack reduced to desperate scrambling. Another blast from the Omega device tore through their lines, vaporizing an entire squadron in a heartbeat. Inside the Apex Dominator, alarms blared as systems failed across the ship. Zarak stood on the bridge, mandibles clicking in fury as he watched his invasion crumble. He turned to his weapons officer, eyes blazing. Reroute all power to the main guns. Ignore the safeties. I don't care if we burn out every circuit on this ship. We will not be defeated by these primitive apes. As the Dominator's weapons began to charge, Samuel's tactical officer shouted a warning. Sir, we're detecting a massive power surge from the enemy flagship. They're powering up something big. Samuel's blood ran cold as he realized Zarak's intent. There was no time for subtlety. He keyed the fleet-wide channel. All fighters, form up on me. We're going in. Across the battlefield, human pilots received the order with a mix of excitement and dread. This was it, the do-or-die moment that would decide the fate of Earth. Engines flared as fighters peeled away from dogfights, forming up into an arrowhead formation. Samuel's voice crackled over their comms. Target the bridge tower. Hit them with everything you've got. The fighters accelerated, plunging into a maelstrom of weapons fire. Ledosian point defense turrets opened up, filling space with a hail of energy bolts. But the human pilots were driven by desperation and skill honed through countless simulations. They wove and juked, presenting impossible targets as they closed the distance. Armor-piercing warheads streaked ahead, punching through the Dominator's already strained shields. The first wave of fighters reached their target just as the Dominator's main guns reached full charge. Missiles slammed into the bridge tower, blossoming into fireballs that consumed alien metal. Wave after wave of fighters followed, pummeling the command center relentlessly. A final salvo detonated against exposed power conduits, triggering a chain reaction that ripped through the ship's spine. In a blinding flash, the Apex Dominator's bridge disappeared in a massive explosion. The Titanic vessel shuddered, its cohesion lost as centralized control vanished in an instant. Across the battlefield, Umbra watched in stunned disbelief as the pride of the Ledosian fleet began to tear itself apart. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull as the reactor went critical. Samuel allowed himself a moment of fierce joy as the Dominator split apart, debris tumbling away from Earth. But he knew the fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. All ships, mop up any remaining resistance, he ordered. But keep your guards up. This victory came at a heavy cost, and we can't afford to let it be in vain. As rescue operations began and damage reports flooded in, Samuel's mind was already racing ahead. The Ledosians would be back, he was certain of it, and next time, Earth needed to be ready. Samuel stood at the viewport, his hands clasped tightly behind his back as he watched Earth's final moments. The singularity charge tore through the planet's crust, ripping continents apart and igniting the atmosphere. Beside him, his exo-lieutenant Chen wiped tears from her eyes. "Sir, evacuation status report," she said, her voice cracking. Samuel turned from the apocalyptic scene. "Go ahead, Lieutenant." "We managed to get 3.2 billion off-world. The rest—" Chen trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Samuel nodded grimly. "Understood. Status of the fleet?" "We have 412 ships operational, sir. Another 89 are damaged but salvageable. Crew losses are substantial." The bridge fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. Billions dead, Earth destroyed, and a vengeful alien empire still out there. Samuel clenched his fists, pushing down the wave of despair threatening to overwhelm him. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. Chen complied, and Samuel addressed the ragtag fleet of survivors. "This is Captain Young. Today we've suffered a loss beyond measure. But we are not beaten. Humanity will endure. We will find new homes among the stars, and we will make the Ledosians pay for every life they've taken." He paused, letting his words sink in. "All ships prepare for jump to emergency coordinates. We regroup, we rebuild, and then we strike back." As the fleet prepared to scatter across known space, Samuel turned back to the viewport. Where Earth once hung in the void, there was now only a swirling mass of molten rock and radioactive debris. "We'll be back," he whispered. "And God help the Ledosians when we do." The jump engines spooled up, And one by one, the ships of humanity's last fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind the graveyard of their home world. In the following weeks, the survivors regrouped at secret outposts and hidden colonies. Samuel coordinated with other military leaders, piecing together a resistance network. They salvaged what they could, rebuilt damaged ships, and began constructing new weapons. Reports trickled in from across the galaxy. The Ladosians were pulling back, consolidating their forces. Grand Admiral Ventress had gone to ground, likely fearing reprisal for his monstrous act. In a hidden shipyard orbiting a gas giant, Samuel stood before a holographic display showing known Ladosian positions. He turned to the assembled human leaders. "We've located 3 major Ladosian supply depots," he said, highlighting the targets. "I propose we hit them simultaneously, cripple their logistics, force them to overextend." A grizzled admiral nodded approvingly. "Good, make them bleed for every light year." "What about Ventress?" asked a civilian counselor. "Shouldn't we prioritize taking him out?" Samuel shook his head. "Not yet. We need to weaken their infrastructure first. When the time comes, we'll corner that bastard and make him answer for Earth." The plan was set in motion. Stealth ships slipped past Ladosian patrols, planting subspace beacons to guide the strike forces. Samuel personally led the assault on the largest depot. As his task force dropped out of hyperspace, he gave the order, "All ships, weapons free. Hit them hard, hit them fast." The battle was swift and brutal. Human ships tore into the unprepared Ladosian defenders, their fury evident in every salvo. Samuel watched from his command chair as antimatter torpedoes reduced alien stations to expanding clouds of plasma. When it was over, Samuel allowed himself a grim smile. This was only the beginning. The Ladosians would learn to fear the wrath of a humanity with nothing left to lose.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.